And then looking at teacher retention, I know you mentioned that earlier. What does that look like, and how are you guys planning on increasing that?
Yes. So, and that's a difficult one because that's a national issue, recruiting and retaining teachers. This year we recruited approximately 175 teachers, and that it's slightly down from last year. In other words, we didn't have as many openings as we did last year. So again, the numbers that we needed to recruit are lower, but that's, typically every year in Columbia, we've recruited anywhere from 190 to 225, somewhere in that range, teachers. This year at 175 shows a bit of a drop. So we are retaining more of our teachers. And of course, they leave for various reasons, family, husband moves, wife has another job offer, and so on. We are actually being more targeted in that we're going out to different job fairs, and we're looking at not just job fairs within the state, which is what we've traditionally done. We're now looking at expanding and looking at national searches because, quality teachers come from all over, not just home. And there's some that are homegrown, which are really great. And we are continuing to look at those job fairs and sending individuals out who will actually be responsible for recruiting our teachers. We're developing more retention plans by providing training, by providing interactions with our community. For example, at our new teacher breakfast yesterday, our teachers were surprised by receiving a $100 gift card by our foundation. I mean, never happened before. So initiatives like that with our community is happening. We're talking to different things like car dealerships about what sort of incentives they can provide. I know the Jamaicans have stepped up and said yes, they will help with that as far as serving as a recruitment tool for teachers, and then just creating that environment or that welcoming environment where when teachers come here, especially those that come from outside Columbia, they're having a mentor, someone that can make sure that they know where the fantastic restaurants are, or that's the things that are happening within Columbia. So again, we are paying very, very close attention to that, and we're being more intentional in the things that we're doing to be able to not just recruit, but to retain our teachers as well.
And then across the district, going into the school year, are there enough teachers for these students?
Yes, right now we are doing well. We do have enough teachers for us. Of course, things happen at the last minute. There are illnesses and people have emergency moves. They have family members that get sick. So we also support that by having a robust substitute pool. And we are working with a private company for that, and so far so good. Every classroom will have a teacher in it. If there's not a teacher, there'll be a quality substitute that will be in that classroom for a short period of time. But again, we're starting off very well, I would say, with classrooms being filled with teachers.
How do you ensure that these substitutes are qualified to teach a class?
Yeah. Well, they go through a screening process, and they have to make sure that they're able to ensure a certain level of proficiency, and also they have to receive a level of certification through our state agency as well. So we do background checks, making sure that we have a quality candidate, and then of course you're provided with a mentor within the school. So there are other teachers that will work with them to ensure that the lesson planning and delivery of instruction is happening. So again, there's several facets of that are happening there.
And then also looking at that plan, I know something you guys are trying to increase is SAT scores, particularly in the math department. How do you go about that?
Yes. So if I may, it's increasing our state scores that we have, our MAP scores, and so we have done that. I think this year there will be a slight increase in our math scores because we're looking at hiring more instructional coaches and being more targeted with our lesson planning and looking at more things like what does rigor look like in that classroom environment, providing additional training for teachers as well as support. So again, I think we will see, especially in math, that it's paying off by having those slight increases. And we know that as we put these initiatives in place, typically initiatives take 3 to 5 years before we actually see the benefits of them. So, we're not in the sprint, we're in the marathon. But in the meantime, we're hoping to see that our scholars are thriving in the areas of math in particular.
Mm-hmm. And then Trying to get students into more AP level classes and things like that is also a part of the plan.
Yes.
How do you go about that?
Well, we're working with a company called Equal Opportunity Schools, and they went through and they reviewed transcripts, they reviewed scholar performance levels, because what we discovered is there are scholars who are capable of taking advanced classes and they were not enrolling in them. So they went out, they found them, and they are actually helping to recruit scholars to take more of these advanced classes, these dual credit classes or early college, high school classes. Now, it's one thing to recruit, but we also have a retention plan. In other words, if we take a scholar and we say, okay, take an advanced math class, we want to make sure they'll be successful. So now we're providing supports for them. So as they enroll in those more rigorous classes, we not guarantee, but we ensure that there's a greater level of success by providing those supports that are necessary for them along the way.
And something that also caught my eye was that ACT scores, I believe, are higher here in the state and nationally. How do you guys plan to keep that up?
It's just the quality of teaching that's happening in our high schools. Here every junior takes or enrolls in the ACT classes, and we have a very high number of our scholars that take the test. And when we compare it to the successes that we are seeing, yes, it speaks to the quality instruction that is happening in our classrooms, especially at the 11th and 12th grade level with our scholars. It's been a tradition here in Columbia, and we plan on keeping that tradition along the way. We celebrate. We have several scholars, Rockbridge and Hickman, that max out on the ACT scores every year. So again, it speaks to the existing quality instruction environment provided by our outstanding teaching staff here in Columbia, especially at the high schools.
Mm-hmm. And then it also looks like out-of-school suspensions and things like that have started to increase recently, I believe.
Yes.
How do you guys plan on getting that back down to regular levels, I guess?
So we, this year for the first time, we've implemented what is called a behavior educational plan. It was a plan that was developed by input from administrators, teachers, community members, and so on. And we rolled that out sort of in the middle of last year. And because it was new, we were just beginning to see some of the benefits of that. So this year we will continue with the plan, and the expectation is that we start seeing a decrease in the number of out-of-school suspensions that we have. One thing to note, although our numbers are increasing, what we've noticed is it's about less than 5% of our population that are really responsible for the number of out-of-school suspensions. It's a small number. We even looked at, there are close to 80% of our scholars that have never been referred to the office for any reason, for any discipline infraction. But again, that small number, that small population is contributing to a lot of those issues that we have, and we plan to deal with that. For example, I know Battle High School, I have to commend them, their past principal, Mr. Taylor, Adam Taylor. He instituted a school within a school program. This is where our scholars that perhaps weren't successful in a traditional high school environment, they could actually experience success by having an alternative pathway, meaning they'll still have their classes, they'll be able to come to school, but in a more smaller, more intimate environment with their teachers. And what we've noticed is that has been a great payoff or great success for scholars as far as decreasing discipline infractions.
Is there like a certain age group that you see this in? Is it mostly in high school students where this is an issue?
It's all the way. It's kindergarten. It's from elementary, middle, and high school. It's all the way. And we're ramping up or increasing our training in different discipline techniques. This year in particular, we have instituted techniques from a book called Teach Like a Champion. And this is where we're beginning to give teachers tools that they can use in their interactions with scholars. Because discipline starts in that first interaction, whether it's in the classroom, in the hallway. And so we wanted to ensure that teachers are given tools that they can use in those interactions. So there'll be less likelihood of a situation to escalate and then turn into a major disciplinary infraction. So again, we're looking at that. We're visiting all restorative practices that we use within the schools, and we're looking at things like PBIS, which is positive behavior supports for scholars. We're increasing the number of social workers within the schools, because coming back from COVID, we did notice there were behaviors that we hadn't quite experienced the quantity before COVID. And coming back, I think our scholars had to get back to a sense of normalcy of, this is school, this is how I'm supposed to behave at school. And so we're watching those numbers and working towards that decrease, as well as and providing supports. We're doing trauma-informed training, which we hadn't done as intimately as we in the past. And we are bringing in consultants to talk about what does a scholar with a level of trauma look like, and how do we mitigate that, and actually training teachers about that. So again, yes, we're putting things in place, trainings in place, supports in place to decrease that number.
Mm-hmm. And then will this training happen year-round, or is it just kind of before school starts for teachers?
Well, this training most of it will happen in October. We were able to we implemented 3 days of professional development training in October. We've never done that before, and it'll be very, very targeted. We wanted to have a time on undisturbed time, and a time that was pretty lengthy, to ensure that we provide the training in such a manner that it will, as one would say, it'll be more meaningful. So we anticipate this training really coming online in October, giving our staff time to get school started, get routines in place, and then focus on that training. So I anticipate that will be a very important part of us helping to diminish the number of out-of-school suspensions we have.
Mm-hmm. And then I know we talked a little bit about projects. Just looking at the next 5 years, what other types of projects are you guys looking at that we maybe didn't discuss earlier?
So we're looking at our literacy and numeracy much more intimately. We want to make sure that our scholars are reading at or above grade level, with kindergarten all the way through to 12th grade. And we also want to ensure that their levels of success are increasing. So we're looking at things like Lexile levels, which is actually a reading level that every book is given. And we also have that measurement through our local assessments, and it's a metric that we'll be using more and more of, because if we know where a scholar is reading, if we know their reading level, then we should be working on improving that reading level, increasing that reading level. And the same thing for numeracy, and that is going to be a major shift in how we look at data, and we hope to institute that this school year. So very strong push on Lexiles, and we call it quantile measures, which measure our mathematical skills. In addition to that, we are also beginning to engage our parents in that endeavor, because we know that school should be very much united with parents, because we have their most precious scholars within the schools, and we'll be informing parents, teaching parents about what they can do to help their scholars in terms of reading and math, so that we can look at Lexiles and quantiles. And their websites out there, like there's one called Lexile Hub, or parents can go to, where they can actually take a Lexile score, which is their scholar's reading level, put it into the hub, and it will give them a variety of games, books, that the scholar can choose their level of interest. For example, if someone interested in sports, it'll pull up books around sports, and it will allow them to read at their Lexile level, and then slowly start increasing that Lexile number by having books that perhaps may be a little more difficult. So again, the engagement with our parents and community, we're having a stronger push, because as a community is strong, so is our school. If our school is strong, then that is reflective in our community as well. So it's a very close relationship that each will benefit from. And so we have to engage more, and we want to engage more. In addition to that, we're looking at improving our community response to reading. There are reading buddies that are coming online, mentoring. We're ramping up mentoring opportunities within our schools. My understanding, I just found out there are close to 100 individuals that have signed up to be reading buddies within our schools. So that type of initiative and those kinds of volunteerism activities, that's what we needed going forward to ensure that Columbia is successful.
And how do you plan on working with parents about this? Just through emails or? Yes,
there'll be sessions at schools. There'll be information sessions at schools. There'll be individuals within the schools that will be reaching out to parents to share this information. I know there are a fantastic group of homeschool communicators that interact with parents here. This is something that was started with Beulah Ralph when she was with us and carried on by Mrs. London. And they've actually been through the training on Lexiles and Quantiles, and they are planning to start reaching out to parents about that. We're providing training for teachers, for our central office staff here, so that we will all be on the same playing field as far as that's concerned. But that is something that will be coming with us. And then, as we look at our trajectory over 5 years, these initiatives take 3 to 5. So again, we're hoping to start seeing these initiatives actually manifesting themselves in a 3 to 5 year time period.
And then as far as construction projects go for the next 5 years, anything else you guys are looking at?
Yes, I know that one of the construction projects involved a high school, and we're still looking at that because, again, our high schools are, they're almost bursting at the seams, and so we want to ensure that, again, we don't become overcrowded. And yes, there's the Long Range Facility Committee will be looking at the high schools and looking at the data to see when it's going to be needed. It may not be next year or the next 2 years, but maybe within the next 3 years, I think we'll be moving towards that.
And then the current schools that are being built right now, where are those funds coming from?
Okay, so these are bond funds, and as you know, bond funds can only be, that's only funds that can be used for construction. You can't use any other fund but our bond funds. And we receive bond funds by our voters, by the support of our community. We go out and we let the community know, hey, this is what we would like to do and why we will need to do it. And the community has to vote on that. And Columbia Public Schools have been very fortunate because of the support of our community. We passed a bond, 2 years ago, and because of that, we were able to have the funds now to build the elementary school that we have. And again, we're hoping to see this happen in a few years down the road as we look at our high school.
You've kind of touched on it, but just from your perspective, what is the biggest thing you're looking to change in Columbia Public Schools over this next school year?
Okay. For me, it's achievement. I look at data. I make decisions based upon data, and I want to ensure that we continue to be on the pathway of providing a quality educational experience for all scholars, regardless of condition. And to be able to do that, we must have I call it an inert belief system. We must have a belief system where every individual in our school system knows that every student, whom I call scholar, has the potential to thrive and be successful. And it's one thing to say it, but it's another to actually act on that belief system. And so we're hoping to grow that to where we see more of our scholars, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of socioeconomic condition, that when they walk into our schools, they receive such a high quality experience that they're able to thrive and they're able to be all that they can be. That's my dream, that's my push, that's my number one goal, is to ensure that all scholars receive a quality experience within Columbia Public Schools. And that way we set them off on a trajectory that will allow them to be successful in a post-high school or post-public school experience.
think those are all the questions I had. Is there anything else that you want to add that I maybe didn't touch on that you think's important?
Yes. Again, I would like to ask parents, we need your support. We need your support in ensuring that your scholar gets to school every day, because for us to grow scholars, they must be present. And that means we want them in our school system. It's important that our schools remain safe. It's important that, again, our teachers or quality teachers know that they're appreciated, or quality staff or administrators. It takes everyone working together to benefit our Columbia Public Schools. And we want to ensure that our Columbia family continues to embrace our parents and our community as we work together for our number one reason that we exist, and that is the success of all scholars.